Have interesting news came out today from Newsweek. Newsweek posted a piece called "Major H-1B Visa Sponsor Will Not Hire a Single H-1B Applicant Going Forward," dated October 13th, 2025. And the company in question here is Tata Consultancy Services. Tata is one of the largest H-1B suppliers in the country. They produce more H-1Bs. I did a lot of work with employment-based fraud and employment-based cases. I don't recall doing Tata. I heard a lot of bad news about them, and I don't know whether it's true or not. But what I will tell you is the H-1B programs that I saw were often these IT companies that were run by Indians. And just to give you one example, there's a major bank in Atlanta, and I had to go and do a site visit there one time on them, and they hired uh, H-1Bs. They had three. They contracted with an H-1B company that hired 350 IT people, 350 IT people to supply them with computer engineers and computer techs. And out of that number, when I went through and did a site visit on it, there was one, I think he might have been an African American sitting way in the back corner. By the way, no one was sitting around him. He was isolated all by himself. The rest were all Indians from India. And there was one face who was a white guy who was the face of the company. He was like the PR guy. But there were no other whites. And that's very, very typical in the IT industry, as I've said before. So, as a matter of fact, in regard to H-1Bs, the Indian companies that I dealt with that did H-1Bs did everything they possibly could to exclude U.S. citizens. They used every trick you could possibly think of in the H-1B process to make sure that they did not have to hire a U.S. citizen. Just to give you an example, they would put in an application or they would put in an H-1B and they would do an advertisement for IT workers. And they would want an IT worker with 5 years experience as a computer engineer with these certain qualifications. And they would offer $65,000 a year. But if you were in the industry and you knew what they were asking for, if you're truly in the industry, you knew that was a $165,000 salary. And so they knew that if they offered $65,000 a year, then they could exclude U.S. citizens because no U.S. citizen is going to take that job. It's very similar to the same way that the construction workers system works. It's right down the same path. The only difference is that often, because even the Indian IT workers knew that they were worth more, to keep them, what they do is offer them $65,000 so no U.S. citizen would take it. Then they'd turn around at the end of the year and give bonuses to the immigrants who came in to get them somewhere comparable, around 100 to 115, $20,000 a year. So big bonus at the end, but they never told anyone about the bonus because they didn't want to hire U.S. citizens. Those were the companies that I worked for, and they were a scam. They were crooked as all get out. And I know Tata had some of that. There was some reference to that, and there was concerns, but I can't say that they were ever found guilty. I don't know if any of that is. I just knew in my circles that uh, uh, it was a company that they wanted to look out for. Whether they really did anything wrong or not, I don't know. They could have been legitimate. I never worked with them, but I can tell you that it's a common practice throughout the industry to do that, to do whatever you can. I would be curious as to know what their data numbers are, their statistics of how many employees they have and how many of them were U.S. citizens versus how many of them were Indians, or from any other country, how many were Chinese. It'd be wonderful to see their data, and I don't know what that is. But this is great news, what Trump has done to enforce and to cut down on H-1Bs.